This work session of the Board of Trustees of the Spring Independent School District is officially called to order on Thursday, December 7th, 2017. The time is now 6:02 p.m. Board trustees present are Chris Bell, Rhonda Newhouse, Deborah Jensen, Justine Durant, Janet Gonzalez, and Donald Davis. Also present tonight is trustee-elect Winfred Adams. I would like to ask everyone to turn off or silence their cell phones or electronic devices. The next order of business is a review of the minutes from previous meetings. Does any trustee have any changes or corrections to the minutes of the November 9th, 2017 Board Work Session or the November 14th, 2017 Board of Trustees regular meeting? I didn't have changes, but I got to say that the new format with some explanation is just very nice. Thank you so much. These items will be submitted as part of the consent agenda on the December 12th, 2017 Board of Trustees regular meeting. Our next item is opening remarks. Instead of Dr. Rodney Watson tonight, since he is traveling, we welcome Dr. Julie Hill. And do you have any items you would like to address?
Actually, I do not, other than to say that Dr. Watson sends greetings and his disappointment that he's not here tonight, but he will be with us on Tuesday, and we'll be happy to welcome our newly elected and re-elected trustees.
Other trustees? Unusually silent evening. Okay. Tonight we will swear in the recently elected trustee candidate and elect board officers. First, however, the board will recess into closed session pursuant to Government Code Section 551.074 for the purpose of discussing the qualifications and duties of board officers. The time is now 6:04 p.m. We will now reconvene and resume this open session of the board's work session. The time is now 6:19 p.m. Our next item is the swearing in of newly elected trustees. At this time, I would like to recognize our Chief of Staff, Julie Hill.
Thank you, Dr. Jensen. The Spring Independent School District was scheduled to hold an election on November 7, 2017 for trustee position 4 and trustee position 5. The election was canceled pursuant to the Texas Election Code, which allows a school board to cancel an election if each candidate whose name is to appear on the ballot is unopposed after all pertinent filing deadlines have passed. Elected to trustee position 4 is Winfred Adams, Jr. Elected to trustee position 5 is Rhonda Newhouse. I would like to ask Mr. Adams and Ms. Newhouse to join me inside the horseshoe.
Mr. Adams, this certificate of election certifies that you were elected trustee, position 4 of the Spring Independent School District at the general election held on November 7th, 2017. Congratulations. Ms. Newhouse, this certificate of election certifies that you were elected trustee, position 5 of the Spring Independent School District at the general election held on November 7th, 2017. Congratulations. And would everybody once again please join me in congratulating Mr. Adams and Ms. Newhouse.
so that I can be on the record. I will now ask Mr. Adams and Ms. Newhouse to sign the officer's statement. The statement reads, I, Winfred Adams or Rhonda Newhouse, do solemnly swear or affirm that I have not directly or indirectly paid, offered, promised to pay, contributed, or promised to contribute any money or thing of value, or promised any public office or employment for the giving or withholding of a vote at the election at which I was elected, or as a reward to secure my appointment or confirmation, whichever the case may be, so help me God. So if I could have you sign your statements. Thank you both. Mr. Adams and Ms. Newhouse will now take the oath of office. I would like to recognize our legal officer, Jeremy Binkley, who will administer the oath.
We'll give these each in turn. If you'll repeat after me. Start with Mr. Adams. I state your name. Do solemnly swear that I will faithfully execute the duties of the office of School Board Trustee for the Spring Independent School District of the State of Texas, and will, to the best of my ability, preserve, protect, and defend the Constitution and laws of the United States and of this state. So help me God. Ms. Newhouse, after me. I do solemnly swear that I will faithfully execute the duties of the office of School Board Trustee for the Spring Independent School District of the State of Texas, and will, to the best of my ability, preserve, protect, and defend the Constitution and laws of the United States and of this state. So help me God. And if you will both please sign your oath. I have pens here for both. I will notarize these and return copies.
Family and any supporters.
Family and supporters.
I think you have two cohort members that came.
Yes, Stephen, Victor, all you guys.
Come on, guys.
I can hold the chair.
Come on, don't be shy.
Step back. Front.
more. Here we go. Okay, here we go. 1, 2, 3. And Trey, you want to get one? No, wait. Just the one, really? Everybody should do it. Thanks,
Trustee Adams, would you like to introduce everybody?
The character there, that's one of my little brothers. We have Petra, Sharia, Stephen, from my leadership ISD area. Jared's over there. This is my father-in-law and mother-in-law, Bobby Taylor. Over there is my dad's oldest brother, Sylvester Adams. This is my wife, Angela. This is my mother, Sandra. And my 3 Spring ISD students here are Amina, Taylor, and Isabel.
Wonderful.
Adam?
Adams?
Trustee Adams? Trustee Adams?
I gotta get a stop.
Thank you.
You look good over there.
Appreciate it.
Thank you, Ms. Hill, for conducting a very wonderful ceremony.
Thank you, Dr. Jensen.
Our next item is the election of board officers. In accordance with Board of Policy BDAA, the Board of Trustees shall elect a president, vice president, secretary, and assistant secretary at the first meeting of the board following the election of trustees. Chief Hill will assume responsibility of the meeting to accept nominations for the position of board president. After a president has been elected by a majority vote, the president accepts nominations and conducts voting for the positions of vice president, secretary, and assistant secretary. Board officers shall serve for a term of 1 year or until a successor is elected. I will now ask Ms. Hill to preside over this portion of the meeting. Now, I know that Dr. Watson really likes the gavel, so here.
At this time, I will entertain nominations for the position of board president.
I would like the honor of nominating Rhonda Newhouse to be board president, Spring ISD's Board of Trustees.
I second.
Dr. Jensen has nominated Rhonda Newhouse for board president. Are there any other nominations? As there are no further nominations, we will now vote. All those voting for Rhonda Newhouse as board president, please raise your right hand. Rhonda Newhouse has been elected as the board president. I will now be turning the meeting over to President Newhouse.
You ready?
Rhonda, do you want to sit over here or quick? Do you want to remain there, or what do you want to do?
This is fine for right now, or any time. Everything is right here in front of me,
Yep.
yes.
You situated. You're good.
Following along.
Thank you, Ms. Hill. And let me first say thank you to my co-trustees for this honor of serving as your board president. I hope to make you proud and look forward to a very successful year for Spring ISD. So thank you. Let me also take the privilege of welcoming Mr. Adams with us. You're with a very good group, and we're excited and happy to have you with us. It's so nice to see your family and cohorts and friends here. We thank you for coming out tonight and supporting Mr. Adams and being with us. We know we got a lot of bad weather out there, but you braved it and came on in, so thank you for joining us tonight. At this time, I will continue to move on with our elections. I would like to entertain nomination for the position of Board Vice President.
I would like to nominate trustee Anna Gonzalez for vice president.
Second that nomination.
Jana Gonzalez has been nominated for Board Vice President. Are there any other nominations? Are there any other nominations? Hearing none, and there's no further nominations, we will now vote. All those voting for Jana Gonzalez as Board President, please raise your right hand. Vice President, Board Vice President, thank you. Yes?
Trying to give it away already?
Wouldn't be a bad idea. Thank you. As there are no further nominations, we will now vote. All those voting for Jana Gonzalez as Board Vice President, please raise your right hand. Thank you. Jana Gonzalez has now been elected as our Vice President. Thank you, Jana. At this time, I will entertain nominations for the position of Board Secretary.
I would like to nominate Donald Davis as Board Secretary.
Donald Davis has been nominated for Board Secretary. Are there any other nominations? Are there any other nominations? As there are no further nominations, we will now vote. All those voting for Don Davis as Board Secretary, please raise your right hand. Don Davis has now been elected as the Board President. Secretary. I'm really trying to get rid of this position.
All right.
Thank you, Don.
Thank you very much. Thank you.
And now I will entertain the motion for the position of Board Assistant Secretary.
I would like to nominate Justine Durant as Assistant Secretary.
Justine Durant, thank you, has been nominated for Board Assistant Secretary. Are there any other nominations? Are there any other nominations? As there are no further nominations, we will now vote. All those voting for Justine Durant as Board Assistant Secretary, please raise your right hand. Justine Durant has been elected as the Board Assistant Secretary. Thank you. Instead of curriculum. Okay. If you have noticed on our agenda, we now have next our Chief of Curriculum schedule. But due to scheduling conflict, we would like to call up our Chief Financial Officer at this time to make her presentation. So please follow along with us with the new item on the agenda.
Thank you, Madam President Newhouse, and members of the board. I appreciate you making this one change for us. And tonight I wanted to bring your attention to item B under the Chief Financial Officer section. and that's the Unlimited Tax Refunding Bond Series 2018. So as has been our practice, when the market allows and when the opportunity arises, we take advantage of opportunities to save some money. And so we currently have an opportunity tonight that we'd like to speak with you about. You have a blue folder in front of you that has the latest information related to this item. And we have with us tonight Mr. Terrell Palmer, who you all know with Hilltop Securities, as well as our bond counsel, Mr. Barron Wallace, who'd like to come and talk to you about this opportunity, because it actually has a little asterisk beside it as well, and Mr. Palmer will talk us through that.
Good evening. I hope that you all have seen a pattern here. Ms. Westbrooks doesn't allow me to come before you without good news. And so we're very happy to report, as Ms. Westbrook described, anytime that there's a drop in interest rates compared to where we sold our original bonds, that's an opportunity for y'all to save a lot of money for the district and a lot of money for its taxpayers. We tried to boil it all down into one simple page here because I know y'all have a lot of items to go through. And I'd like to focus really on the current refunding down there more in the middle of the page. We are for sure going to do this transaction and refund $11.2 million worth of bonds with an interest rate of 5%. And the new bonds, the replacement bonds for these, this is a refinancing a lot like you would refinance your home mortgage or your car loans. The new bonds, we would sell $9.7 million, and that rate would be 2.81%. So the difference there between those two interest rates is going to save the district and its taxpayers over $2 million in debt service over the life of those bonds. We will not be extending those bonds or anything like that. They're going to pay off exactly when the original bonds were planning to mature. And so the present value dollar is something that the bankers and lawyers kind of deal with, and we calculate that's $2 million worth of savings back to today's dollars. Compare that to the amount of bonds that we're refunding. We put a minimum amount of savings by percent on our transaction of 5%, and so you can see we're almost 3 times that amount of savings, which makes it very profitable to you, the district, and its taxpayers. Everybody knows that there's a tax law change in the works. It's gone through the House, it's gone through the Senate, and now they are in committee trying to pull together kind of a cohesive tax code change. Within that, there's the elimination of what they call an advance refunding, whereas a month or so ago, we may have looked at other bonds that were a little bit further out, these other issues, Series 2011, 12, and 13. But that tax code change has the elimination of what they call advance refundings. Doesn't mean we're not going to be able to refund those bonds when we get to those call dates. But right now, in the current version of both the House and the Senate, they've eliminated advance refundings. And so we're hoping for some changes. Our industry is fighting it. Barron's industry is fighting it and trying to get us some relief on that ability to do an advance refunding. But at least we are going to do this smaller transaction that save us a lot of money, and hopefully they'll let us do advance refundings for some twilight period of maybe 6 months, and if they do, we'll refund these other smaller transactions. But clearly, the low-hanging fruit and the best fruit on the tree is this issue, the 2008 issue, and we'll for sure get that done and get you almost or over $2 million worth of savings. So we have some board action that needs to occur tonight. It gives the board president and Mrs. Westbrooks the ability to execute those transactions that I described. Barron, you want to say anything about that?
Yep. President Newhouse, trustees, Barron Wallace with Bracewell, and it's good to be back here with you. As Terrell said, officially on Tuesday, you will adopt the bond order, and that's what gives the delegation authority, and it has both the current refunding and, as Terrell said, the advance refunding, and it's the 5% savings threshold that you have to meet in order to execute under this. So you'll approve that. There are a few other documents that you approve, but it's, I should say, the standard bond order that you've done on the last several occasions. And I just wanted to reiterate what Terrell said about the tax law change. We have been embroiled in this for the last 60 days trying to make sure that federal Congress understands the impact on local districts. I know that Ann gets our updates, and all we can say is that we're trying to explain that there's a significant hit to local entities and their ability to manage tax rates and manage these things. And these savings that you get are important to taxpayers. So we're trying to make that clear, but as Terrell said, there's at least one portion of this transaction you can do. We should know by late December or early January as to whether you can do the other transaction, and of course, we'll let your team know what happens, but we're a little bit in limbo for the next couple of weeks waiting on Congress. Any other questions or any other thoughts? I'd be happy to address them.
Thank you.
I know a question.
Sure.
So if the new law comes to fruition, what type of impact, just high level, is that really going to be for us, say, over like the next 5 to 10 years?
The only impact that it has on you is the elimination of this advance
like what we're doing.
refund. Okay, and it's not going to eliminate your ability to refund those bonds. You have to wait until May of 2020 and May of 2021 and May of 2022 in order to do those transactions. You have to be within 90 days of those call dates. And so there's, we're taking interest rate risk.
Right.
We would love to be able to lock it in now. We're at 20-year lows in interest rates. Who knows what interest rates are going to do in the future? They've been saying that interest rates are going to go up for the last 6 years, and they've done nothing but go down.
Mm-hmm.
And so we may make more money on the refunding by letting interest rates continue to drop, and maybe they don't go up. Who knows? But we are taking the interest rate risk. So it's just taking one of those kind of tools that the district has in order to try to pick a really good market to refinance its outstanding bonds, and it's really putting it more of you're going to be subject to whatever the interest rates are at that time. And you're going to be doing smaller transactions, like $11 million. It's, to us personally, it sounds like a lot of money. To Spring ISD, it's not a lot of money compared to your overall debt. And so normally we would combine all of these refundings to do a $50 million deal, which is a significant portion of your bonds. But so we're going to do a little bit more kind of smaller transactions if this goes through. There'll be a little bit more distraction on Mrs. Westbrook's time dealing with the rating agencies and doing due diligence calls and other things like that. So I think those are the major ones.
I'm just saying, keeping with sort of the good news, the impacts on Spring ISD and other school districts are minimal, other than the advance funding, but there are significant impacts to healthcare industry, housing. All of those entities that have issued tax-exempt bonds are likely going to be not able to do that, or at least it's going to be severely restricted. So in the long run, I think school districts are going to fare pretty well, but there are going to be other parts of the community that don't.
Thank you.
Which indirectly affects us.
Yes. I think that
We're going to
absolutely
benefit.
that's true.
One thing I did want to mention about this transaction is that our team is working with Dr. Hinojosa's team with the Career and Technology group to have a group of our One-Chi students actually participate in this transaction.
Oh.
And we have it on the calendar for the pricing, which is scheduled for January 18th, to have that in-house where the students can see the orders coming in and things of that nature. And then the closing would actually, we would allow them the opportunity to visit Bracewell and Hilltop Security's offices and kind of get a feel for what each individual's role is in the process. And so we were hoping it would be a much larger transaction, and it still may be, but we do have that in the works right now.
Make it a teachable moment.
Yes,
All right.
yes.
Thank you.
Very exciting.
Thank you.
And those are the kind of things we want to, expose our students to. That's real good. For that.
I think it's a great idea, and Ann has driven the process, but, you know, we're excited to have them downtown. Unfortunately, they may not want to be bond lawyers after they see what that's okay.
Thank you, gentlemen.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Anything else, Ms. Westbrook?
No, ma'am, that's it. Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Westbrooks. Thank you, gentlemen. And now we will go back to our agenda as printed. So for our next item, I would like to recognize our Chief Curriculum Instruction and Assessment, Lauren Topak.
Thank you, President Newhouse and trustees. Very exciting evening for us. As promised, every month we come to present where we are with literacy in terms of our assessment data. And really, we discussed at our last board work session about what does that look like from the implementation side once we get our results. So this evening's presentation will really be a co-presentation between myself and Dr. Hinojosa. I will review the process and the assessment tools, and then Dr. Hinojosa will address what the implementation cycle looks like on campuses. As we've stated every month, that literacy for us specifically falls with our first commitment of Reach Every Student. Commitment 1 is our Strong Literacy Foundation for All. For us, our literacy initiative, Literacy Applied, is a comprehensive approach that includes curriculum, instruction, and assessment. And this evening, we're going to focus on the assessment tool and review what it is, the process, and again, how it's been implemented on campus. When we go back to our strategic plan, Every Child 2020, and we look at our performance indicators, we reviewed these last time as well, that these two specific indicators in yellow directly relate to literacy as well as what we do with our information from our assessment, that we have a percent of kindergarten students reading on grade level and percent of third grade students reading on grade level. We've set a goal beyond just kindergarten and third grade students being on grade level. As you can see in orange, we've set a goal that in Spring ISD, at least 80% of our kindergarten through 8th grade students will be on grade level for reading by the end of the year. And so we're going to walk through a couple of pieces of data that we've walked through before to review how do we monitor this and what does on grade level mean at various points during the school year. We have 3 tools that we use to progress monitor literacy. I'm going to focus on the left-hand side first with MAP, and then I'm going to focus on the right-hand side with STAR 360. MAP Growth is our computer adaptive screener that we use for our English-speaking students in kindergarten through 8th grade 3 times a year. We do it in September, our beginning of year assessment. Our middle of year assessment is coming up in January, and we have an end of year assessment window in May. At the beginning of the year, the beauty of MAP Growth, of what comes from MAP Growth, is that we're able to identify areas of focus as teachers, as campus administrators, to really hone in on the instruction for students. By the time we get to the middle of the year, because we've now taken 2 assessments, we're able to identify the growth that our students have made from beginning of year to middle of the year. It also helps teachers identify any new areas of focus that they would like to or need to focus on from January through end of year assessment. Math skills is what happens in the in-between pieces of time. So between beginning of year assessment and middle of year assessment, this is a new tool for us that really progress monitors what we're doing in the classroom and what every individual student needs at their level to get them up to grade level. It's really a bottom-up approach that drills in on the needs assessment areas based on their MAP growth score. What's really great about MAP skills is that, again, it builds on MAP growth by drilling down to pinpoint specific gaps that students have. Then we're able to identify what these skills are, what these needs work areas are, and teachers can then create individualized plans for students, and it really helps focus the instruction to let us know as a whole group, do we have a gap that's missing? Do we need to reteach whole group? Is there a small group of students based on how they're performing in terms of below grade level, on grade level, or above grade level that we need to pull to a guided group? Or what does that look like for each individual student? So the beauty of MAP skills is that it really drills down and pinpoints per student what are their needs work areas. This is something that we're implementing between our screener times. And actually today we did have a great training with all of our campus leadership teams reviewing MAP skills and really drilling down to what does the tool do, not just how do we operate it, but what does this mean for us in terms of instruction and what decisions we make on campus. Questions about MAP?
Yeah, what do you mean between screening times?
Yes, so the MAP growth tool is our assessment tool. That's what's called our screener. It's a diagnostic tool, and it's given 3 times a year, so specifically September, January, and May. So between September and January, we are now wanting to know, well, what are we doing? How are we doing it? What can we use? How can we help teachers have something at their fingertips to be able to use to help their students and provide individualized instruction? So that's the in-between piece. And then again, January through May, after we give the screener, what do? We have this beautiful tool of MAP skills.
Okay.
And
that
I'll
answer?
be able to speak to the in-between in just a little bit.
Okay.
Yeah, it's coming up. Any other questions about MAP? Okay, so for our bilingual students, our students in our bilingual education program in grades kindergarten through 5th grade, we have a different tool that we use called STAR 360. What's really great about this tool is that our kids are able to take an assessment in English and they also take it in Spanish. Typically for our Spanish-speaking students, they take an assessment and it will be in English and it will show that they're very low across the board. Well, this tool allows us to be able to test kids in their native language as well as in English, so we can see their level of proficiency in both languages, and then teachers are able to really monitor closely both languages, and as they progress out of the bilingual program, we want them to be able to really be built up in that English. And so this tool allows teachers to be able to look at both simultaneously, and we have decided that this year we're really going to give this 4 times a year instead of just 3 times a year. So we're going to not only give it at those benchmark times of September, January, and May, we'd like to be able to also see before May, maybe around March time we've been discussing, where are our kids in terms of both Spanish and English. And this tool also allows teachers, as Dr. Hinojosa will get into a little bit more of the implementation, to progress monitor and add activities the same way that MAP skills will. So this is a really nice tool for us to be able to really report out, but also look internally as teachers and campus administrators, where are kids in both English and Spanish with an assessment that really assesses them in each language. Okay, so I know that we've seen this chart multiple times, but let's review this chart. So as the school year progresses, so do our standards for what on-grade level means. We have targets that we've highlighted in yellow of where we expect our students to be reading on grade level at the beginning of year assessment time, the middle of the year, and then the end of the year. So as we expect that the school year progresses, the on-grade level expectation increases. So we can use third grade as an example. If you look at third grade, and we can use their Lexile levels, which is just another unit of how we measure reading, you can see that they would start out with a range around 450. We want to keep building, which really means they come in, at about the end of second grade level when they enter third grade. Well, by the middle of third grade, we don't want to still be at the beginning year level. So that is about a range of a 575 to a 625. Our goal is that we have 50% of our kids on grade level by middle of the year assessment. We really feel strongly that rather than saying we just want 80%, really 100% of our kids on grade level at the end of the year and be really surprised at the end of the year, we're putting in some landmark numbers so that we can really closely monitor how many kids are getting to grade level by end of the year. And so by that EOY time, that end of the year, the last yellow column, we want at least 80% of our students on grade level. And for third grade, you'll see again how those Lexile levels increase to a 650 to a 675. It's a range. So we really want them at the end of a third grade level, even beginning a fourth grade level, so when they come into the next grade level, they're set up for success. Questions about the chart?
In the future, I'm showing F&P and RIT. Could you guys in the future sort of spell those out?
Yes, we can, absolutely. So I can review those really quickly. So the reason why we have three different verbiage there is because MAP growth has its own unit of measurement called the RIT score that we reviewed way back when, many moons ago. It is their unit of measure that they've created based on norm referencing this test. And so when we look at RIT scores, that was unfamiliar to us because this is our first time using MAP. What's more familiar for us are Lexile levels, which is, it's just another measurement of how kids are progressing in reading. It's another norm referenced unit. And F&P stands for Fountas and Pinnell. They are the gurus of reading, guided reading specifically. And in spring, we have used multiple measures over the course of many years that use the Fountas and Pinnell letter identification for reading levels. So we wanted to make sure that both for our Board of Trustees as well as our campus principals, that we put all three in there. You can see that we've correlated them so that you can see the RIT score to the Lexile level to the F&P level. They essentially all mean the same thing. It's whichever one floats your boat and calls out to you. MAP growth in particular, when the scores come out, they come out as RIT scores, but they also have a Lexile correlation. And so for us, our principals and teachers are used to the words Lexile levels, and they're used to F&P levels. And so we wanted to make sure, especially because this was a new tool, that we had words that made sense and that we had all of those correlations together. But we certainly can make really an index of terms.
Are there any differences in the rigor between the Lexile and the RIT?
They measure the same thing. They measure the reading expectation, the reading level. So the difference in rigor will really be between the scores as they increase each month. So you can look at any one of those and just follow it directly across. So whether it's the letter that moves across, you'll see the letter.
So it's apples to apples in the measurement.
That's right.
Okay.
Yes. Our Research Accountability and Testing Department has done a lot of work making sure that all of this is apples to apples. Yes.
So, do I need to press a button?
No.
So all of
close to you.
So all of these assessments are norm referenced, there's no criterion referenced testing?
This is a norm reference test nationally, yes, that has been used in multiple districts.
Thank you.
With that, I'm going to turn it over to Dr. Hinojosa.
Thank you. So on this slide, Ms. Durant, we're going to talk about what happens in the in-between. Like, what is the instruction that's going on? What is the cycle that is happening in the classroom every single day? So we gave the beginning of the year assessment, the BOY, in September. And so what has been going on, and how do we know that it's going on? So this diagram hopefully helps you visualize. We gave the BOY, we gave the assessment in September, then the in-between happens, and the in-between is the instruction that is occurring. Then we're going to come back in January, give the big screener, the MAP growth, and then instruction happens, and then the end of year. So in the in-between, we call it the instructional interventions. And you heard Dr. Topek talk about MAP skills. MAP skills is one of the pieces that we are using as part of MAP growth and MAP skills, right? So one of the pieces that, and we talked about it today with our teachers, literacy coaches, and principals, we talked a lot about what happens in the in-between and the importance of the teacher. Many times, and you'll remember when we were working with iStation, many times we gave the screener the beginning of the year, and then we put them on a computer program, and then we came back and gave them the screener. And sometimes the teacher was out of the loop. And what we believe is the teacher is very important and is an integral part of what happens in the in-between. They play a big part in understanding the data that we have received from MAP growth. They play a big piece, and you heard Dr. Topek talk about, as we get into MAP skills, that it helps the teacher focus the instruction on that individual student. It allows us to drill down for that specific skill versus we have all of this, and what is it that we need for Mary, Johnny, and Sue? Not what we're doing for all, but what we're doing for that individual student. So it is a cycle. So first and foremost, understand we've got our teachers that are playing a big part in looking at this data. We talk about our data analysis process. You'll see and you'll hear teachers talking about printing out student profiles. Student profiles, Mr. Adams, shortly, if you haven't already seen a student profile, you'll be seeing a student profile on your son or on your daughter that will tell the parent, but specifically teachers, exactly what this student needs and what they need to be working on. So the ability to drill down. So the cycle begins with the teacher doing a data analysis, then being able to plan on the skills, selecting the skills that the students need. Today we learned about, don't select 20, don't select 60. Focus on, number one, what you're teaching, focus on what the students need, focus on 2, skills. And you assign those skills on what we call missions on the system, right? So pick the skills. Teachers are doing their data analysis, they're planning, then they teach. So we're teaching in small group. We talk a lot about how do you group your students based on their needs. That profile sheet told us exactly what each student needs. It helps the teachers. In the olden days, we used to group our students. How do we group our students? We did by grades. We did a DRA. This is just another way that helps teachers group the students by specific skills. So now I'm running small groups. We can assign the student to go on the computer, complete their mission or their task, right? While a teacher now is sitting down, and we wrote some of these resources here. You see that in green. You see Fort Farrier. You see Star Reading Instruction. Other campus-based interventions.
These are tools that our teachers already have on their campus. And so they're being able to determine what it is that the students need. So some students you'll see on the computer completing their mission. Some students you'll see working with the teacher one-on-one, 3-on-1. You'll see some students independently working on their skills. So it allows us to also specifically assign those students, right? Assign the resources that they need. We can upload other resources in there. And then you'll see that we've put MAP skills, and you'll see right below it what we call MAP mastery checks. These mastery checks we do online, and it allows us, based on the skills that the students have been working on for a week, for 2 weeks, however they progress, because it is very student-centered. You're not going to see all 20 students moving at the same time. You're going to see them moving based on their accomplishments, based on what they're learning. So now we're able to put them back online on what we call mastery checks. And those mastery checks are 6 questions, and they're specifically designed to test the skill we've been teaching them on. And then we'll know if they've been able to master that skill, then we'll be able to move them along. If not, they're going to need more remediation, and we continue that work. So this is what we're doing in the in-between. These mastery checks are about 20 minutes long. So it allows the teacher to be able to put the students on a computer and rotate them through that little computer or their laptops or their Chromebooks, put them through, have them working on their mastery checks while I'm teaching another group. And so the cycle begins all over again, because now they've done their mastery checks. Now the teacher has new data to be able to analyze, then plan, and then get back on what do we teach. And these are those short little cycles that we call the in-between. It's the ongoing cycle that we continuously move the student along. This is how we are able to challenge them, teach them, challenge, assess, teach, challenge, assess, until we get to now to January. And then the cycle begins all over again with those smaller cycles in between. So this is what our teachers are doing now. This is what happens in the in-between of the big screeners, beginning of the year, middle of the year, and end of the year.
January is almost here.
Yes.
What's the progress? What's the progress?
Well, you know me, I'm always going to tell you we're on target. I believe that our teachers are making the progress. Actually, today I had the opportunity, as Dr. Topek was saying, we had the opportunity to go back, and we had a super user, MAP super user, come and work with us. I've learned a lot of new pieces that this tool has to offer. As you know, we kicked this tool off in August. So we're learning as we go along. The beauty of the access that I have, that principals have, is that we're able to go to the school level and the teacher level. I was in, for example, Hirsch Elementary, I was in Anderson Elementary, I was in Smith Elementary. And so I could go into the tool itself, the school, the teacher, and down to the student level. I could observe how many students had already been on their missions, their activities, how many students had already gotten their mastery check, how many students already have their completed student profiles, and what the plans are. I can't tell you how we are district-wide, because this tool is one that's focused on the student and the teacher. To pull up the big reports is what we're not able to do at this time, because it's not a top-down, it is actually a bottom-up. It's a teacher-driven, student-driven tool. What I can tell you, and why I'm feeling really confident right now, is we are in the midst of our locally developed benchmark assessments. And so our elementary students and our middle school students are doing their benchmarks. And I've been on the system to look at that, and we're looking really good with some really good data. Are we there with using this tool, Map Skills, to its fullest capacity and what it has to offer? No, not yet. We're still learning. So we had leadership teams that came in today, groups of 4 or 5 from each campus. And on Monday, if you'll recall, that's our district professional development day. So the teams that came in today will present, and will have their staff go through 4 hours of just roll up your sleeves, let's do it. Let's get in there, I was able to assign mastery checks myself. I had to call the principal and said, I'm the one that's been playing in this tool, we're going to delete these. But they're going to be able to go back and do a refresher if they've had any challenges. And then the whole afternoon, the teachers are going to have the entire afternoon to assign the activities, what we call tasks or missions, assign mastery checks, and do all that work that sometimes we don't stop and just give teachers the time to get into the tool and get that work done. So I feel confident, but I can't give you a report because it doesn't allow us to do it at the district level. I can see it teacher by teacher, school level by school level.
I had a couple questions. So, does the MAP tool have functionality for teachers to provide feedback and assessment on if it's working for them? What would have worked better? I mean, does it have
Absolutely, and I know Dr. Topek just kicked us.
Yes, actually there's 2 feedback mechanisms. One is for students. They actually provide feedback based on their mastery checks. I believe they have like little smiley faces that they're able to give and stars that they rate, and that's one way for teachers to be able to go in and really have those individual conferences with students about how did this go for you, and if you didn't hit your target, so let's look at your goals and let's reassess and look at your progress and what's going to work better for you. So that tool and that function is really great for teachers and really anybody, Lupita and I, campus principals. There is a feedback button that goes straight to NWEA that we do urge all of our users to use as they have recommendations. They do send them our way, and we send them on to NWEA, but yes, there is a button that they can click, and it goes straight to NWEA.
So as we're individualizing the profile for each student, are we also making those adjustments for our staff and our teachers throughout the process based on the feedback we're getting?
I have to say yes, and that's one of the things I thought Dr. Topek was going to talk about, is that we have developed a Q&A. I say we, but they've developed a Q&A, because we do, as you kick off a new tool, there's always challenges. Like, I do it all the time. I'm texting, I'm calling, I'm stuck, I can't get here, I can't get there. So we've developed a Q&A of those frequently asked questions, because when, if I'm experiencing that challenge, I can assure you someone else in the district is experiencing that challenge. So it's part of a Google Doc that's available to all teachers and all administrators, and we also have a place where they can put their questions in. Not only can they see the answers, but put their questions in. And then we're putting a lot of tools in there, like, she knows this, I love the one-pagers. Just give me a one-pager. If I want to run this report, give me the one-pager. Or if I want to do X, give me a one-pager. And that, today, we actually unveiled it with the teams and showed them exactly where those resources were. And that's something that we've done as a response to the teachers and to all of us as end users, because we're learning as we're going along.
Right, with it being a new tool, we don't want to wait till the end of the year to find out, that we had challenges. If we can be monitoring that feedback and making the adjustments so we can maximize the most from the new tool.
They communicate a lot with us, and so we definitely have two-way communication, both from the campuses, from their campus testing coordinators, but administrators, teachers, and it comes both my way and Dr. Hinojosa's way, and so we definitely have that cyclical feedback. We do have an FAQ that we put out today based on previous questions, and in live time, as Dr. Hinojosa was saying, I was creating a Google Doc, and then we showed them, and so It was really cool to see all of a sudden all the people who
So it's like a
popped up
message,
on it.
it's like a message
Oh,
board.
yes, and that they've
Okay.
already started adding questions, and so we've been going back and answering, and they know that that's a continuous tool. We said that's not just something for today,
Mhm.
and so, oh, yes, it's already about 5 pages long.
So who on the campus is responsible for the mastery checks? Is it the principal, the assistant principal, the department head? Who's monitoring those mastery checks and making sure they're happening?
So first and foremost, our teachers are responsible for the mastery checks, because that's how we grow our students, right? We not only want to teach, but we need to know how they're doing. So teachers are responsible for assigning the mastery checks and going back and checking and doing their data analysis to determine where the students are at. But who's monitoring that the teachers are doing this?
That's what I'm asking.
This lies on, and actually there's 4 people on the campus that are responsible for doing this, but at the end of the day, of course, the principal is responsible. This tool allows us to do work in reading, which is what we've really been focusing on and using the tool for reading. It is our district's focus, right? But it also has the ability for math, so our math skills. We're really fortunate, thank you to all the resources we've been able to secure. We're really fortunate to have both literacy coaches on our campus, that one literacy coach and a math coach. Every elementary and every middle school has a literacy coach and a math coach. And those are becoming our super users, because we've got to have those super users that truly understand the tool, that are at a different level, right? They're deeper. Our teachers are here. Who's going to be able to go deeper? That's who you saw in today's training. And we're also fortunate enough to have what we call a student support specialist. And you'll hear SSSs. You'll hear somebody say, I'm an SSS. And there are our educators that are focused in on the at-risk students. They're also becoming super users, because our teachers need someone that can sit side by side and show them, but at the end of the day, they're also the ones that are running reports to make sure that we are, as a teacher, I'm moving along. As the second grade teacher, I'm doing this. I'm not just waiting for the beginning, the middle, and the end. Because if we don't do anything on the in-between, we can test again, the needle's not going to move. We can test at the end of the year, the needle's not going to move. It's what we're doing in that in-between. So it is up to this leadership team to ensure that we're doing the in-between work and we're pushing along.
Well, I'm excited about it, because with our high mobility rate and the challenges that we have, intervention is key. And then being able to individualize that intervention is definitely what will help us begin to move that needle. So,
and the great thing about this is that it is hooked up or connected to our eSchool, and so every night it's updated. So I may have withdrawn from Clark Primary, Clark Intermediate, and I'm now over here at Anderson Elementary. So that withdraw and that re-enroll will automatically populate, because the system is picking that information up. And what we learned today is if you have a student that comes in from out of district and we don't have that beginning of the year assessment, what is it? You can still get them on math skills right away, and we immediately put them on intervention, remediation, and we select that for the student. And then as he or she starts testing, now we're going to identify the specific skills. But we don't want to sit and wait and say there's no data. We're automatically going to assign him his mission so he or she can start working. We can start doing the checks, the mastery checks, and then start narrowing the focus as to what they need to learn.
Right. And I have if my colleagues as well, I would like in January maybe to see a couple samples of what their individual looked like, and then the adjustment we made in January, just to kind of get a feel for how we're adjusting it.
Absolutely. If you all are really interested about it, we talk a lot about, we can share, we can do a presentation, but the ability, if you're interested in, to be able to bring in one of our literacy coaches, one of our principals, to be able to walk through the system, show you
profiles,
examples of
the
student
profiles.
profiles and see the movement, we'd love to be able to do that.
That'll be wonderful. Because your reports are ran by each school, by someone in that school. They don't have to rely on the district, resources. Each one is done there, so they can give us information on their particular school. That would be very nice. Thank you.
We'd love to do that, and that's the beauty of the tool. It is teacher-centered, it's focused on the student, and it's a bottom-up. It's not the district running the reports, pushing it down to you and telling you what you're doing. It's a bottom-up. Starts with our students and our teachers.
Thank you, thank you.
And so just the last slide that we have here, just another way of looking at, Dr. Topek showed you that other slide that had in yellow, right, the beginning, middle, and end of the year goals. This is the exact same thing. We had already our MAP growth, and that's the Lexile reading level goal for our students at the beginning of the year. And at the beginning of the year, we said to our principals, we're looking for at least 30% of our students to be on grade level. That was the beginning of the year. We took into account that summer slide. They haven't been with us. When we do the middle of the year assessment in January, the expectation is that at least 50% is on or above grade level in reading, and that's the Lexile scores that we're going to be looking for. And then by the end of the year, the expectation is that at least 80% of our students are reading on or above grade level. And we know that our goal in reality is to get every single student. We want to be at 100%. However, we also know that some students would have to make a year and a half, 2 years gain in order to catch up. So we're looking for at least 80% of our students to be reading at or above grade level. Those are the Lexile scores that you would be seeing.
Wonderful. Thank you, thank you. Before we move to the next item on the agenda, I must apologize. My manners are usually better than this. But I neglected, after coming to the seat and started listening to Dr. Hill here on what I needed to do, I lost my train of thought. But I neglected to recognize our past president and to thank her for all the wonderful things that she has done for us for the last 2 years in serving as our board president. We could not have had a better person to represent us throughout the district, throughout the community, and throughout the state than Dr. Jensen. So will you please stand and give her a big round of applause of thank you. I know that we all grew under her leadership and expecting her to continue to lead us.
I'll help you any way I can.
Tell Ed we're not through with you yet. Thank you. We will move on, and thank you for that time. For our next item, I would like to recognize Chief of School Leadership and Student Support Services, Dr. Hinojosa again.
Thank you. So, Ms. Newhouse, and I have to say President Newhouse, Ms. Newhouse, this is an update that we want to bring to the board, and we did this update last year in December. And so we wanted to make sure and come back and also remind all of us of the tools that we have in our schools. We talked about MAP Growth and MAP Skills. Those are great tools that right now we're using in the elementary and middle schools. And so today I'd like to bring the board an update on Naviance. Before I get started, I do want to recognize two people that we have in the audience, and you may or may not have met yet Carlos Gonzalez, and he is our coordinator of college readiness. Mr. Gonzalez, you'll wave. And with us, we also have Elizabeth Schumann, and she's with Hobson, who's the parent company of Naviance, and so she's here tonight. And so as I go through the presentation, just highlighting what Naviance does for us, if there's any questions that I may not be able to answer, and the team is here to provide any answers. And so as we go through, and every time, we want to make sure that we are focused on our strategic plan, and you'll know that we are actually in the middle. Naviance came in halfway through a year, so we actually started with our seniors, and now we've gotten a good footing where we're starting with freshmen all the way through. But it really, as we look at Naviance and look at this tool, we are focusing not only on student achievement, making sure that we keep our students on track, beginning in 6th grade, because this is a secondary tool. Of course, excellence in every school, and then the most important one is opportunities and choices. This is the work that we in the district are doing around college and career readiness. And this tool specifically speaks to college and career readiness under opportunities and choices. And so I'd like to begin, instead of talking about the tool, I'd like to begin talking about why we're here. Why, as educators, we're in schools every day. And especially in spring, and I know as educators, we all believe and hold true that if our students are engaged in our schools, if our students believe that they belong in the schools, if they've made a connection to someone in their schools, we believe that our students are going to be successful. So thinking about this is engagement. Engagement in our schools is very important. And as you all know, there's a lot of research that is out there on student engagement and student connectedness to the schools. Specific research that we looked at when we were thinking about this tool almost 2 years ago, is the work around student engagement, and the work that says that just 1 percentage point increase in engagement at the school, just 1 percentage point, correlates to reading achievement, 6 points increase in reading achievement, and up to 8-point increase in math student achievement. There's also a lot of research and a lot of body of work, specifically from Gallup, but just wide varied amount of research that says if we focus on our students' strengths, on what they can do and what they're successful in, and if students can feel connected to at least one teacher in their school, there's evidence that these students will be 30 times more likely to be engaged in their schools. And oftentimes, many schools focus on raising test scores and on improving academic achievement. But research shows that we really must start by helping students understand and see how education will help them reach their goals. That if we can make that connection, and we can make that connection by showing students that it starts with their strengths and the strengths that they bring to the table, and that we focus on engaging our students in that school process, that ultimately we're going to impact student success. And so, the other piece of why we're here, and specifically talking about secondary education, students in middle school and high school, is that research also shows us that student engagement declines as students progress, as they matriculate through the different levels. You can see how high we have student engagement in the elementary, and that it is a contributing factor here as we move through to the decline in engagement. And so what do we have? What are we doing in Spring ISD? Well, we have many tools and many resources that we are working with every day in our schools to ensure we have student engagement. And one of those resources, one of the solutions that we are implementing in our secondary schools is Naviance.
And Naviance, as you know, is a comprehensive college and career readiness solution for middle school and high school students that specifically helps align the strengths that the students have and their interest in post-secondary goals to improve student outcomes. And so today I want to just bring back to the table what we are doing in our schools to increase engagement through the use of Naviance, and what does Naviance provide us. So first and foremost, Naviance allows our students to engage in self-discovery. The tasks and the inventories, the resources that are available in Naviance allows the students to uncover their own strengths, their own unique strengths. And this is through StrengthsFinder, and I think you all are familiar with that, an instrument from Gallup. Our students go through the process and do their own StrengthsFinder. They also have the ability through these inventories to better understand their unique learning styles. Am I a kinesthetic learner? Am I a tactile learner? Am I a visual learner? How do I learn best? They also have the opportunity to explore their different levels of intelligences. And as you all know, there's multiple intelligences. Some of us may be spatial intelligence. That's not me, but that's one intelligence. We also talk about our musical intelligence, right? So our students are able to go through these inventories to learn not only how they learn best, but what type of intelligence they bring to the table, what is their own strengths. They're able to start setting their goals, and they're also able to develop their self-knowledge and personal motivation. What motivates them? So a lot on getting to know them, their self-discovery. Then we move on through to career exploration. Naviance has many tools in there that allows the students to start exploring what careers not only are they interested in, but what careers are best matches for them based on the work that they've already done. So it gives them a preliminary career alignment when they've done their career cluster finder. And based on their strengths, they're also now, okay, this is your strength, this is a good career for you that may be a good match for what you have shown us. Personality-based career assessments identifies best fit careers, and then this one is one that I actually had the opportunity to experience, is learn the journey of global leaders, and this is what we call, or you will hear teachers, counselors, or students talking about Road Trip Nation, and this is actually through PBS, and it is on the system itself. And students are able to go into the system, and they're watching videos that are produced with professionals or leaders in the field, interviewed by other students. So you will see an interview of a geologist, an interview by another student talking to this geologist to see what is it that you do, what are your interests, what does your job entail. So it allows students to experience different careers and different leaders. Now, the academic planner, the next two components is what we've been using a lot of, is the academic planner. So based on the results of the inventories that they've been doing, and we start as early as 6th grade, it now starts helping them make better informed decisions as it relates to their endorsements. And as you know, when our students are in 8th grade, at the end of 8th grade, we're already asking them to choose an endorsement for high school. Remember, we've got 5 endorsements. So through all this work and inventories that they are doing, they're going to be better prepared to make a selection. It allows them to now also begin to explore their 4-year plans. Really, this is their 4-year graduation plan. Because if I've done my career inventory, let's say, and it's telling me that a good match, a good career match for you is in education. A teacher. Now that I'm ready to start planning for high school, I know that I'm going to select public service endorsement, because that endorsement is where we find the education career pathway. Or if I'm part of the robotics team, and my Strengths Finder and my career cluster says engineering is a good place for you, then I'm going to choose the endorsement of STEM. So these activities help the students prepare to select their endorsement, and then start selecting their 4-year plan with the courses that are aligned. And then last but not least, the post-secondary preparation. And you'll see that a lot of work happens here for our juniors, but specifically for our seniors. And this is why we started the program at the very beginning. How can we help our students prepare for college and for universities? One of the biggest pieces that I'll talk about later is to understand that, yes, college is a goal that we have for all of our students. However, some may put off college and may start in the workforce, or some may be considering the military. So I'll talk a little bit about the opportunities that Naviance has for them. But again, this tool allows them to uncover their best fit colleges for them. It allows them to identify the majors that they're interested in. It allows them, and you'll hear a lot about their college applications that we can upload into the system. The great piece on here, you see scholarship support. It gives them access to the National Scholarship Search. So students can actually do a search and say, I'm interested in engineering. What scholarships are available, right? And the beauty of this is that we can now also upload our local community-based scholarships that are offered. So we can add to the database and include local scholarships. So this is one way to get the information out to our students. Did you know that the Education Foundation has a scholarship that you can apply to? So not only the national, but we can upload our own personal. Then the last couple of pieces, the internship planning and the enrichment programs. This allows our students the opportunity to do searches and say, I'm interested in an internship with an engineer. They're able to do that search and see what's available national. They can narrow and say what's available in the state of Texas. The same thing with the enrichment programs. They may be interested in a summer camp. They can enter summer camps in there. They can then narrow their focus and say what summer camps are available in Texas. And then they'll be able to see what's available, how do they apply, what's needed. So it brings those tools to the students. And then the last two pieces is military planning and workforce planning. We do a lot on college planning, and we already know our academic counselors are pretty well set on what needs to happen, right? You do your college application, you make sure you do your FAFSA. We have those pieces in place. But what about the tasks that are needed if I'm planning to go into the military? What is it that I need to do? This component has resources and information for our students that are considering the military and what they would need. The last one is on workforce planning. What are the tasks? If they're interested or intend to go to college, but not right now, I need to go to work first, what is it that I need to do? So it will allow them to do tasks such as resume writing, practicing their interview skills to be prepared for an interview. So those pieces are pieces that oftentimes we've only focused on the college readiness, but we also have to help our students prepare if they're going in the military or into the workforce. So this is everything that Naviance, not everything, I've highlighted a few pieces for you, that Naviance, that tool, does for our students to get them engaged in their education and help them see how important their education is to their future plans, So what can students do? Well, we want students to start getting excited about post-secondary education. Hopefully, Naviance opens that window, opens that door that lets them explore all the possibilities that are out there. It allows them to explore the different careers. It allows them to get started on imagining what a future they can have, what is out there for them. Bottom line, it allows them to get engaged. It allows them to have hope that here's my strengths, here's what's out there, and we know that that's one of the biggest motivators for our students. And so I wanted to give you some specifics so you know if that's what the tool does. What is it that we're doing? What is it that teachers and counselors are doing right now? What is it that our parents are doing? What's happening? And so just a quick timeline to give you an overview. Of course, we did a lot of training in the summer. We have new counselors that came on board. We do a lot of work through our English department, our English 4 department, so we've got new teachers out there, so a lot of training for our staff. There's also updates and uploads of our SAT scores. All of that information continuously gets updated, so our counselors and our students have the latest information at their fingertips. In August, we started working with our parents. First and foremost, letting them know that this tool is available. Second, giving them their activation codes for our parents and for our students so they can start using it. Of course, faculty and staff workshops. We've got to let everyone on the campus know what's available. And we can also now start importing our transcripts into Naviance so that now the students have them at their fingertips and they can submit them with their college application. Right now, again, uploading our SAT scores. We've gone back. New SAT scores have come in. If they're available, we need to get them into the system. Doing some WebEx trainings for our counselors, some just-in-time. This Naviance, this tool is very robust. Every time I get on, and today with Elizabeth's guidance, I've learned new things. And so we've got to keep our counselors updated as to what does Naviance offer our students. And also on-site visits from Naviance to work individually at our high schools with what the counselors need. The ability to talk one-on-one, what is it that you're doing, what is it, and how can we help you? Then January through May, that's the big season for us. Big season in the middle schools because they're preparing for high school. They're preparing to select their endorsements, to do their 4-year graduation plans, but big time for our high school students, especially those juniors and those seniors that are getting ready to graduate. So again, of course, making sure we've got our updates on our SAT scores, any of them that have come in, we need to update that. For us, our key in that link is our counselors and our teachers. Those are the people that are talking on a daily basis with our students. So we've got to make sure that they know and that they have answers to whatever it is that they need in order to be able to support our students.
So we have both our academic and our college-ready counselors working with students. Are they calling them in individually to let them go through the Naviance program? That's really important. We have one college readiness counselor in every comprehensive high school. That's one. And so we cannot say that one person is doing college readiness. It is our academic counselors. We have at least 8 academic counselors at every one of our comprehensive high schools. We have a CTE, a career counselor, and then we have our college readiness counselor. So we have anywhere, depending on the size, 8 to 10 counselors. So this work is everyone's work, right? We cannot depend on one person to try to do our graduating class is 700, 800 students. That one person cannot be responsible. It has to be everyone.
So I know we have our 21st century coordinators on campus. Are they engaged with the Naviance program in any way?
Yes, they are, and more of the pieces that go in here. So, for example, in this year, we haven't done that piece, but, for example, we're talking about SAT scores and college readiness. So through the after-school 21st Century program at Westfield and at Dekaney, we were able to do some prep courses for our students, specifically in their SAT prep. Drawing a blank of the Princeton Review. We were able to do Princeton Review at both Dekaney and at Westfield, and then they're absolutely able to also see where the students are at and support them in that process.
So 21st Century, that was 5 years, right?
Mm-hmm. We're starting our second year.
Starting our second year.
Mm-hmm. And it is one of the pieces, you're absolutely right, Ms. Durant. It focuses on academics, of course, our scores in STAR and EOC, but there's a big component around college readiness, and it needs to start early. Can't wait for just our senior year, but how is it that we can make sure we're giving our seniors what they need, but we start from the bottom up? How can we push those students along and get them what they need?
So how do we know which students are using it and which ones aren't?
Good question. So let me show you this, and we have individual reports, but let me show you this because every middle school counselor and every high school counselor has this. And then, like I said, we either most of the time we're partnering with our English 4 teachers, English 3 teachers. Through our English department is one of the best ways that we partner because they also start working on their essays, right? So, they're writing essays for a purpose. And so we partner a lot with our English or reading teachers, but also our history teachers. Where can we partner? But we have required tasks. This is what we call a scope and sequence, and I've kind of abbreviated it, for us to really look at. But what is it that needs to be happening that our students need to complete in the fall? And we really call our winter all the way through March 1st. And so you'll see the required tasks that they have to be doing. We're able to track by school, by grade level, by students, how many students are logging in and what are the tasks that they're completing. And so then you'll see in the springtime what's required. And so there's specific tasks that we want them all to be able to do. If I am a 9th grader, we start on our resume builder. We start teaching that component. If I'm a senior, one of the pieces that we want to get from our seniors is that graduation survey. We want to be able to get feedback from our seniors before they leave us. And then, of course, we have recommended tasks that they can do above and beyond, and you'll see some students that are the high flyers that go all the way, but there's a minimum of this required task that we want them to do. In middle school, we do have our career explorations course. It's going to come, and it is a course that's required by the state, and that's before they leave middle school. And so we have that in our education planning guide and our scope and sequence for our 8th graders. And so that's through our CTE program, so that's where our middle schools are going to be doing a lot of this work. Oh, and before I forget on this, our students, as long as Spring ISD has Naviance as part of the tools, our students that graduate, our alumni, can always come back and have access to this tool. So they can always, the resources that are there, the resume builders, the interview skills, the tasks that they need to be completing for military, all of those resources will always be available to the students as long as Spring ISD has this tool. And so usage. One of the things that we are tracking and we want to know is how are we doing? We are now in our second year. How are we doing? Are they using this? So this data that I pulled was as of November 15th for the current year, and for last year, it's what we did all year long. And so you'll see that we've already actually surpassed where we were last year. Last year, a brand new tool for us. This year, a lot more focused, and as of November 15th, you can see where the numbers are. And I know going through your mind, you're thinking, what happened to middle school? It's so low, right? It's so low. Is it where we needed to be at? No. But the exciting piece in middle school is the work that they are doing. And so remember we talked about their career cluster, them getting ready to prepare for high school and being able to make some decisions based on their strengths. So the work that they've been doing in middle school, and specifically our 8th grade students, they're already getting into their career cluster finders, and they've already saved some of their career clusters that they're interested in. So right now, in November, there's already students, and we've got over 4,000 career clusters that are already saved, students that are already saying, oh, I'm interested in education, I'm then therefore going to get into the public service endorsement. I'm interested in robotics or engineering, I am going to get and be prepared for my STEM endorsement. So the work that the middle school students are doing, even though the numbers seem low, it's very focused and targeted in planning for their 4-year graduation plan. So can we improve? Absolutely. That's our goal, but we're excited about their focused planning that they're already doing. And then the other big piece that we are focused in, and I want to share with you, is we've taken a different approach this year. So we are tracking, and we want to know specifically for our seniors, are they applying to college? Are they applying to universities? And what we've done this year that's different than last year we didn't necessarily give them a focus. We just said everyone has to apply to a college or a university, at least one. Everybody. So I want to have 100% of our seniors applying to a college, applying to a university. We focused, and our students, and I know you've seen the data, they're focused in applying to our local colleges. You'll see Lone Star's numbers are very high. Well, we know that that's almost a given for us. So this year, under the direction of Mr. Gonzalez and the college readiness counselors, is our focus is with our students to apply to 4-year universities. Everyone, let's focus. Counselors, work with your students. We'll get Lone Star, and we'll get that done. That's a given. But let's start getting our students aware of the 4-year universities and colleges that are out there. Let's make them aware. Let's make sure that they're getting into the system and exploring what best fits for them. We call it a super match. I'm interested in going into a big city and a big university, or I want a small town university because I'm interested in this, I'm interested in music. So let's start getting our students applying for that 4-year college and university. And so you'll see the numbers, and again, this is middle of the year. The numbers that you see for last year are end of the year. So you can see, it's not even middle of the year, you can see as of November 15 how many 4-year college applications that we already have, that students have already saved into Naviance and can immediately submit. So this is one of the things that we're tracking, and we're really pushing our students to get out of our comfort zone and do more.
This is great information. Do we know what percentage of our seniors that is?
Well, and you can see here, and I know we have data that shows us on percentages, but I can get that, how many, and I think I had a chart that did that, and it was too much on there, but I can get you, because you'll see Dekaney, 512 seniors, and we have 514, but it might be 50% of the seniors have 514 college applications saved.
Okay, so that, okay.
So, but we'll get you a percentage, but the goal is that every single high school senior applies for a 4-year university and then, of course, for a 2-year college.
Great.
It's wonderful to give them that experience,
to
require it.
Require it.
Wonderful.
There you go.
Require it. Thank you, thank you. Any questions?
Dr. Hinojosa, I see you have one additional presentation on attendance. You want to continue?
Yes, and that is in your green folder. Green. And this is our monthly update. I want to make sure that we stay connected with attendance. And so you'll have two documents. One is the PowerPoint presentation that I'll walk you through with the district level information, and then you'll have a 7-page document that has by individual school. And that's just for you, for your reference if you're interested in looking at any one of our schools and how they're doing. Thank you. So every day counts, our attendance matters, and that is a big emphasis for us in the district and one of our, the board's focus. And again, grounded in our strategic plan and specifically around Reach Every Student, because we know that if our students are not in school, we're not going to see achievement. They've got to be in school. So last month, we talked about what we were doing in the month of October, and so this December presentation talks about what we did in November, and now we're beginning December. But what did we do in November, and what was the big focus? And you'll see that the big focus in November, and actually have a competition going, was our parent workshop. We wanted all of our schools, not just our elementaries that do a really good job of bringing parents in to talk about whether it's attendance, curriculum, grades, but we also wanted our middle schools and high schools to bring parents in and talk about the importance around attendance. And so we have competition going in, a nice little competition. The schools are currently sending in their sign-in sheets of how many parents attended their workshop, their session, and their presentation, because we do want to be able to do a small reward for the schools that got the most parents in that we talked about, where they heard about the importance of attendance. And of course, we're still continuing with our incentives that are going on at the school level around climate and culture. And we continue, and I hope you've seen some of the tweets going on out there. Continue to hold, right now it's pretty cold for me to say this, but ice cream parties. I can tell you Ponderosa says that ice cream parties is what motivates them, and so they will continue with their ice cream parties. But the other piece is, so for Burchett, they've actually created a new calling system of how the teachers are taking turns and making personal phone calls to the parents. And that's been a big motivator for them. And then, of course, the high schools, their big piece has been around having their attendance committee meetings and looking at where the students are at and what the percentage is. But now they've started bringing in students and the committee talking to the students. So you'll hear Westfield talking about them bringing a student in and saying, son, you've only been here one day this week. What's going on? So now you've got an assistant principal, an associate principal, a counselor, and a teacher bringing in this one student and saying, we missed you. Where have you been? And so for the high schools, it's more of the direct contact. And so systems and structures, we actually on Tuesday just had our district attendance committee meeting where we had representatives from each school come in and talk about how they're doing and what's working and what's not working, having the ability to exchange ideas at the district level. So let's look at how we did in November. How we did in November as it compares to last year, and how we're doing as we're going along the way. And what's really interesting, I know I've been talking to our assistant superintendents and the principals, we get our weekly attendance reports. I get that weekly attendance reports, and you see that we had a slight decrease from November last year to November this year. Although it was minor, You'll see 94.58 for our elementary last year in November 16th, and that green bar for this year in November, it's at 94.04. So there's a slight decrease. If you look at middle school and that orange bar, from 95.48 to 94.92. And then our high school, just a tad, but you'll see a drop, and then district-wide, you'll see a drop from 90.93 to 89.87. And so it's like, okay, what happened? When we went back as a team to look at the entire month of November and how was our attendance week by week, and then we went back day by day, you know what our lowest attendance day was in the month of November? What was the biggest thing that happened in Houston in the month of November?
Oh, the Astro.
And we had a major parade. And the districts surrounding us, and especially Houston ISD, you know, the students were not in school and they were allowed to go to the parade. We had, Chief started us very early that Friday morning with, you know, we got bomb threats, we got all kinds of things about, you know, trying to not come to school that day. Although our principals, our schools had great things going on. Here at Westfield, they had their own parade. I mean, like their own parade with the band coming out and kids coming out. We had great things going on. But we did have specifically, you'll see, and when you look at the numbers, you'll see Smith Elementary, huge drop. But Smith Elementary specifically, there was a bomb threat for Smith Elementary. And it's very hard once we start doing the work and we're, you know, for parents to say, well, what's going on in this school today and am I going to leave my students? Plus, you had a lot of parents that they upfront said, I'm taking my child to the parade. Do it, elementary. As you look at those individual reports, when you get a minute to look at it, I can count the schools specifically that had these issues and or parents that called specifically to central office to say, why aren't you letting our students out? You'll see that their attendance suffered not just 1%. You'll see that their attendance for that day was in the low 80s. And so that negatively impacted us. That was a big challenge for us. Regardless, one of the things that we want to be able to do, though, is always recognize our schools. And so, once again, creating, the leaders and those that are making a difference, regardless of what's going on in the community, regardless of what we are facing, whether it was the Houston Astros parade or whether it was a school that had many students out with the flu, you'll see that schools are making huge gains. Look at this up here in the elementary level. You'll see some flips, right? Do you all remember what was in October? Who were we celebrating? Cooper and Northgate. Look at this. And you'll see Link, and I hope, follow us on Twitter. You'll see what they've been tweeting. What's going on at Link, and that's a lot, that we've got a new principal, Mr. Jones there, and new teachers with a lot of excitement, a lot of work in the community with the parents. They had a huge turnout for their meeting specifically around attendance, but you'll see how Link shot up. Winship, Mr. Armelin out there, very quiet, but pushing really hard. So you'll see that the year-over-year improvement, look at Link. 1.53. So you'll see the work also at in the middle schools. You'll see some movement there. Look at BAML and the movement, BAML Middle School. I tell you, Ms. Grigsby and her team have made this a priority by recognizing their students that have had perfect attendance for that 6 weeks. And then our comprehensive high schools, and that big competition right now between Spring High School and Westfield continues. But it is narrowing. You see that? That gap is narrowing, and so Mr. Reynolds got to push a little bit harder if you want to stay ahead there, year-over-year improvement. And then our school of choice, Robertson. big jumps there. And so we want to be able to celebrate with our schools and the work that they're doing on an individual basis. Another piece that we wanted to add this month is part of the discussion, part of the question that you asked us last year, well, how are we trending? And so did this chart to show you that our ADA trend reflects our enrollment trend. And that's has been, in this past 5 years, we've seen that decline. And there is a mirror for our ADA as it relates to our enrollment. And as you know, our ADA is directly impacting our funding.
Average daily attendance, right?
We are focused on defying those odds and changing that trend there. Because that is under our control as we work as much as we can, work with our students to get them engaged and get them coming to school. And then the last piece that we've been talking about, and just keeping you updated on our trends and where we are with our homeless, our students that are identified as homeless, continues to increase, continues to grow. So district-wide, last year we were at 314 students at the end of the year. That's how many students we had all year long. And this year we are at 715. And you'll see elementary, middle, and high. And one of the pieces that you asked us last week, and we are 1 month in arrears, but we wanted to show you the cost that we've had with our outside vendor, the bands that we hire. And when you look at September, you know, because I even, working with Ms. Westbrooks and her team, stopping to look at this, because September, actually, we saw a decrease, and we had to do a second take and really think about it. One piece in September, remember, we were out 2 weeks in September. So we didn't start school until September 11th. So that's 2 weeks. So in reality, when you look at this September figure is for like half a month, and we were already at 17,000. And so for October, you'll see where we're at, almost a $30,000 increase in the transportation.
So we know this is directly impacted by Harvey. Is there any state funding, grants, opportunities to recoup some of this that we're taking advantage of, or?
We've been approached. So for starters, right now, starting with the month of October, we are able to, based on some guidance that we received from Texas Education Agency, we are able to use our federal Title I dollars to pay the difference between the cost that we incurred last year and the cost we incurred this year. So that $20,000 or so difference between 16-17 and 17-18, we are picking up that cost using our federal funding. But we have gotten some calls and some things about grants that we may be able to take advantage of to help us out with some of the additional costs that we have, but nothing has come to pass just yet. It's a lot of things that we can apply for, and we're just jumping on it when the opportunity comes along.
We are actually in the midst of writing a grant that the City of Houston is offering through the Mayor's office.
I would think there has to be funds somewhere.
It is writing that application, and we got notice on Tuesday, and it's due tomorrow at 1. But we're working on it. I'll tell you, our counselor and Ms. La Guardia, we are working on that because anything that's available for our families, and you know, one of the pieces in working with Mr. Binkley on this, one of the pieces that has happened is Harvey happened on August 25th, 26th. We came back on September 11th, and it was top of mind. October, top of mind. But as we've moved on, we have to stop and think. Our families are still in that situation. Yeah. Our families, right now, it's cold and rainy. And if you think about it, many of them are living in a home without any sheetrock, without any insulation, with just their home. And so as we get ready to celebrate the holidays, our families are still experiencing many challenges. And so that's the piece that we have to remember, not using it as an excuse, but we have to be able to understand where our students are at, where our families are at, and where our teachers are at. We have many of our staff members that are out, out of their homes. There is a lot of challenges, and so, Ms. Durant, you're right, and as Ms. Westbrook says, any opportunity that comes our way, whether it's a huge grant or a little grant, we're going to apply for it. Our families need it, and even our staff members need this.
Yes.
So this is just our monthly update, but I did want to bring this number to you and keep you updated as we progress, and just know that it is an emphasis that we have on the school side.
Okay. Anyone else? Questions? Thank you, Dr. Hinojosa.
Thank you.
Do we need to take a little break
I
before
could
the
use a
next
little
two?
break.
We've been here 2 hours, 12 minutes. Let's take a little 10-minute break.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you. Thank you. I think we're ready to continue. At this time, I would like to recognize our internal auditor, Patricia Rios.
Good evening, Madam President and board members. As I promised, I was going to report a mid-year report in December, and then we'll report in the final in June. And in June, we're also going to report the new audit plan for the following year. But before I continue, I would like to express my gratitude to Dr. Jensen for being an inspiration for me. Not only she support me from the beginning, I remember at the beginning she met every week. Every week she wanted to make sure, are you okay? You need anything? Every week. Until finally she felt comfortable that we were going to the right path. And communication is being number one. Communicating. And that's obviously, I know, Ms. Newhouse, that I will do that the same with you. So we meet monthly, and just a reminder to all board members, we do have an audit committee that we meet monthly, and we discuss all the items and details, and any questions that you have, then I can answer you at that time. This report is actually a summary. They told me that I should have only 5 minutes. Oh, I'm just kidding. I want to have 5 minutes and done. No. So this report actually, number one, it gives you the purpose of internal audit, why we're doing the mid-year report. Also, I'm giving you the internal audit plan revision because we had to change some of the timelines, and we discussed that. Also provides you with consulting services and non-audit services that we have completed, the fraud hotline reporting, and also it gives internal audit staff and our organization chart updated. I wanted to recognize Christine Trevino, our maker to work tonight. Obviously, we can't do it without, having a team. Even if it's a team of one, it's still, we make sure that we complete what was approved in the audit plan. So I just wanted to just focus on the revised audit plan. And I just want to make sure, I made it bigger for you so that you can see the plan a little bit more. So, because I know I was trying to put it in and you might not be able to see it. The big difference with the audit plan is the timeline. And due to Harvey, obviously, it was like starting twice the schools. So we were giving an opportunity for schools to go ahead and start, and then we can go ahead and go back and review. But also, not only the timeline changed a little bit, but we also included the performance audits and consulting activities with the 2016 BOUND program. And that's what I'm currently working with the RFP with that area. So if you have any questions, obviously I'm here to answer you. But again, I will invite you to come, and you don't have to be invited. You're always welcome to our audit committee. And it actually gives an opportunity not only as a new members, to give an opportunity what internal audit is and what it's all about, what is really our purpose. And this is not coming to get you. is really to help the district to be in compliance, number one, because when, internal auditors, we're always about business, either you're in compliance or not in compliance, but also to give the support to oversee areas that you probably don't have no idea that this is what's happening. But but not only just to tell you what we have found, but give you some recommendations how can you improve in all the areas. So one of the items that I have noticed, though, and that we have improved so much from that when I started, this is my second anniversary, actually, in November was my second year, and so what I have noticed is that they're starting to trust me, because you gotta gain the trust. This is not about me, that's a personal item, and this is about the district, about our children, and most important, about our taxpayers. So, because that's where we have to be conscious on that. So, in this report, we'll give you what reports have we completed, where we are in progress, and also gives you the front line, what cases we have reviewed. And I'm going to tell you, with the front line, it's a preventing tool. So I don't have 100 people in my area. I only have one. And so the front line gives a preventing tool that at least it tells somebody that somebody will report you. And so those are the areas that, we'll do follow-ups, and we make sure that we review every single case. So those are the areas. If you have any questions, I'm here obviously to answer you, but like I said, I just want to take 5 minutes from your time.
That monthly meeting a set day?
Yes, usually it's the fourth week of the month. We have a tentative in January 19, the day exact. What's the Okay. I had a tentative day in January. So, as a new president, you will get all my reports. So, and obviously, just so you know, the president and the superintendent always gets the final audit report, so that you'll be able to see. Even the board members can request from her if they need a copy of my audit report. So, it tentatively is the fourth Wednesday of the month. Yes, and we'll do it, we actually move it to 9 o'clock in the morning, and we do it on office. Ms. Jenna Gonzalez has always offered her nice conference room, by the way. Better than my portable, I can tell you that. So she's very generous of us in her conference room. So, yes. At least it feels like you're going out of your area and then discuss, freely anything that you need to discuss at that time.
Get together.
Okay. Tentatively, it's January 17th at 9 o'clock. But obviously, anytime that it needs to be rescheduled, we can reschedule. I'm open. My calendar is open for you.
Thank you.
And Dr. Jensen, I would always like to invite you, because one of the things that without you and without your support, we wouldn't be here where we are right now. Any questions before I go?
Thank you. Yes, thank you.
Oh, thank you. Thank you. Bye-bye.
For our next item, I'd like to recognize our Chief Operations Officer, Brenda.
Thank you, President Newhouse, Dr. Hill, members of the board. If you would turn to page 20 in your packet with me. We're going to be discussing the revised acceptable use policy for technology. The reason this is coming forward is our current E-rate program, which is administered by the Universal Service Administrative Company, is requiring us to pass the Children's Internet Protection Act audit in order to continue to have opportunities in E-rate. And so one of those requirements is that the technology acceptable use policy is reviewed in an open meeting by the board. So, just to give you an idea of this policy, on page 23, really the scope of the policy is that this policy applies to anyone who uses the Spring Independent School District technology resources. And I'm just going to briefly go over it. If you guys would like to go into more detail, feel free to let me know. On page 24, there's a really good summary of the improper use of of technology. So this is the acceptable use policy. 24 starts with kind of the negative side. This is the improper use. These are things like submitting, publishing, or displaying inappropriate material or messages, using district resources for personal or commercial use, accessing inappropriate material is on here, introducing viruses to the system or the opportunity for viruses to infiltrate the system, bypassing security systems, hacking into the network, things like installing software without prior approval by the IT department. That's a biggie. Things of that nature are on this page for inappropriate uses. Questions about it?
How quickly can you get that approval? Like, let's say I found some wonderful software and I want to use it the next week for my class. Is that too fast?
No, we should be able to get it done within a week. We have things that we're looking at right now in terms of with Windows 10 and some of the different apps that people are wanting to use, so we're going to be getting more of those types of requests, and we need to be able to turn those around as quickly as possible. But a week's good. Not sometimes we get requests for a day, but that's not as good. But yeah.
And can you explain to me how you use a proxy server to bypass security?
Yeah, so I could...
Without getting too specific.
I could look at some different technology guys, but yeah, how you use a proxy server to bypass security.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know, I'm going to pass that over to Jason, who might be able to help me with that.
Not that we want to do that, right?
I just am amazed at the list of things that you could do wrong.
So essentially, a proxy server is just a website. So there are websites that you can go that you can kind of tunnel your traffic through to get around the web filter.
Okay.
So we have pieces in place to prevent those sites, but they pop up. New ones pop up every day. So it's a constant challenge.
Have any issues with robots?
We haven't had any issues here with that.
What, robots? Oh my gosh.
Any additional questions on page 24?
No, but I'm sympathetic with the people who accidentally download a virus. I always thought only people who were very innocent did that. And I got an email from my daughter, so-called, but, you know, when I clicked on it, it wasn't.
Right, we try to stay up on top of that, and Jason still helps out a little bit with some of the security things, which is why I turned to him for some help on that question.
Mark, what can I do about all the emails I get from Russian women who want...
I'm going to turn that over to Jason as well. I think that he might be a great person to answer.
That was a joke. Oh, my God. For the record.
If you, we did have some word changes, some wording changes on page 28. There's some red lines and some blue. The original language at the top of page 28 was social media sites, but because that section was really describing more than just social media, including text messages and other email and things of that nature, we changed that to be more specific to electronic forms of communication, just to be actually broader than just social media sites. So you'll see that change throughout, where we're talking about electronic forms of communication. There are also sections in here to talk about professional internet postings at social media sites for employees, for example. Kind of the middle of that page 28, it mentions employees should exercise caution and sound judgment and common sense when using professional social media sites and consider the intended audience. On page 29, there's some additional red lines related to the tagging of photos of district employees. We've deleted that section and added a couple of sections at the end of that, the bullet points, and want to thank Communications for help on that. It said close-up photos or videos of students should not be shared or posted without confirming FERPA eligibility, and a student's name should not be shared or posted without confirming FERPA eligibility as well. And then there's some additional language there at the bottom of page 29 and the top of page 30 discussing the use of social media with students. It does allow certified and licensed employees to communicate through electronic media with students who are currently enrolled, but it asks them to keep those to matters within the scope of the employee's professional responsibilities.
So is it now okay for employees to tag photos of other district employees without permission?
I'm looking for help on that one, too.
Good question.
Sorry.
Is it now okay for employees to tag photos of other district employees without their permission? We explicitly removed.
Yeah, we're removing that section
So-
on page 29.
Yeah, and just in reviewing it, for the most part, taking photos of other employees, we found the practices, if an employee has a concern about their photo, they're usually letting us know, particularly if it's in a group photo or such. And I would imagine they do that with their school staff too as well. So we've never seen an issue with, a posting or a tagging of a photo if they participated in the photo. So we just kind of removed that to clean it up and put the emphasis on actually aligning the student photo with what our current practice is, not just our practice, but what school districts across, the state and nation are doing related to student photos.
Just talking about corporate eligibility, how would one know? All of our parents sign something?
Where are you, Chris?
I'm sorry, page 29.
When we go out to, so secondary is a little bit harder, but elementary, for example, when we go out to a campus for any type of activity or event, our principals know those students, and they often will sit them to the side without them, knowing. For a lot of times it's custody cases, but our staff at the schools know that when we're out and about doing any type of PR on the campus, they know the children that do not have, they have them that do not have the FERPA eligibility, and they'll let us know. But we do, if we're doing any posting for the school district, we check and show the photos to the school staff just to make sure. But for the most part, they coordinate that before we're even going out to the campus. And, when we go out for like the first day of school, when we did the bus and we were doing with the parent there, we'd ask the parent for their permission there on site. If we take a photo of your child, are you okay with us posting it?
I think in high school,
We do that we still do that at the beginning of the year. For the most part, school districts across the state and both the nation, when you're talking very large, that's why we put close-up shots. If you're doing a close-up shot of a child and tagging their name, which we say here is not, we rarely tag their names. We might do a shot of 10 children, but not a close-up shot where they're easily identified and they're tagged in the photo. So for the most part, school districts across the state and the nation wanting to share good things that are going on in the schools, we're doing those shots where the child isn't easily identified, maybe a group shot in the auditorium or something like that. And all school districts are doing that. But when we're doing a close-up shot that the child's easily identified, that's when we usually ask, make sure the FERPA eligibility, and we never tag their name, their full name, first and last name in a photo where the child easily is identified, no matter what.
Yes, true. Went to a national competition, and we just used first name and last name. First just the rank in your last name, they didn't put the whole name.
Right.
Thank you.
Excuse me, Madam President, I just wanted to add that in working with our Chief of Operations, we made note that they needed this particular document passed in order to meet a deadline. but that we know that Update 109 is out, and it is possible that there may be policies that we'll be reviewing next month. If there are any that are in conflict or need to be updated, then we may bring this back to you again the next month or so if we need to make any adjustments.
Okay. Thank you, thank you. Anything else, Mark?
No. Are there any additional questions?
Just to...
We'd ask this one, do you need it tonight, Mark?
It does not require, a vote, just a discussion, so.
Well, if we have to make a change, it'll be based on policy changes that come up through Update 109, but that won't be next Tuesday or it won't be till next month. So we have a chance to review the, big giant package you just got on Update 109 that we sent you electronically. It's about 875 pages, so it's gonna take a minute or two for us to get through. Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay, so only discussion, thank
Yes,
you.
ma'am.
Okay. Is there any additional discussion then? Okay, hearing none, I would like to thank you, Mark.
Thank you.
Now, our Chief Financial Officer was scheduled to be next, and I know she reported earlier. Is there anything else you need to?
Yes, ma'am, we have several other items that are remaining.
To? Okay.
The first item begins on page 34, and as you all know, the Harris County Appraisal District is the organization that's responsible for appraising all of the taxable properties within the school district, and they have their own governing board, and so our school district, as a part of Harris County, gets to vote for the board members. And so what we're asking tonight is for our board to cast a vote for the incumbent board member to represent all of the school districts with the exception of Houston ISD on the Harris County Appraisal Board. And that is Mr. Pete Poppy, who is currently the CFO at Deer Park ISD, as well as a board member at Goose Creek ISD. So it's been very interesting and very helpful having a member with his background, both the board member side and the CFO side, representing school districts at the county level. So that's what we're asking for you all on Tuesday night, is to cast that ballot for Mr. Poppy. Even though he's running unopposed, he wanted to make sure that the school districts had the opportunity to choose him in this election process. So that's what we'll be asking you all for on Tuesday night.
Okay.
And our next item is beginning on page 83. And we use a company currently named Dunbar for our armored truck services. And that company is who transports our funds and deposits between our campuses and our departments to our depository bank. And we contracted with Dunbar through an interlocal agreement with Klein ISD. At Klein's November board meeting, they updated their contract with Dunbar, and so we're asking to update and reapprove our interlocal agreement with Klein ISD to continue utilizing Dunbar as our armored truck services. And there's no changes to our contract or our pricing or our terms. It's just reapproving the interlocal agreement so that we can continue that service with Dunbar.
Are we satisfied with their service? Everything's going good with them?
It is like any other relationship. We have our challenges at times, but we have been able to work through them as they have come up. And some of that is it's still a fairly new service for us. Our campuses are getting used to it. Our departments are getting used to it. So we're still in the working out the kinks phase of it.
Have we ever done an RFP? Did we go out?
We did not. It was when we first looked at switching from using our police department courier, our police officer who was our courier that was going between the campuses and the depository. It was time sensitive because we wanted to make that officer available for truancy purposes, and so we utilized the interlocal agreement so that we could make that switch a little more quickly. So we didn't do an RFP. And actually, our cost is below the RFP threshold.
Okay.
Mm-hmm.
This is going to the second year, right?
Yes, sir. Okay, and if there are no further questions on that item, then we'll move to page 86, which is a request for proposal for group travel services. So when our students travel for various different reasons, namely performing in visual art, if they go to competitions or athletics, any type of travel that requires travel arrangement services, that's where these vendors would fall. And so we had 9 vendors respond to the RFP, but we're asking the board to award 5 of the vendors the ability to do business with the district. And of course, it would be on an as-needed basis, and each individual department could look at either of the 5 companies and choose which one has the best price for them and the best availability for their needs at that time.
There's no fees if we don't use.
No, ma'am. It's per travel, or per incident, I guess is the best way to say that.
Go on. So it's possible that a group could go and get proposals from each one of these?
Yes. Yes, they can price match. Typically, what we run into is the timing and availability of each one of the companies. So the prices are fairly comparable, but it's who has the availability to transport the students when we need them to.
Do they have any guidelines around selection and what they should require based on this competition or that? I mean, do we give any guidelines or direction?
When we put the request for proposal out, we talk to our stakeholders and ask them, and our stakeholders is our internal principals and performing and visual arts teams, and ask them, what is it that you're looking for in these services? So they tell us, for the most part, what it is they need when they're traveling, and then we put that in the specifications. So once we get to this point of recommending the vendors, they've already passed all of the tests of what it is that we need from them. But as far as guidelines in travel, I know our school's office has some guidelines in place for that reason.
So we do have guidelines as it relates to how many days. The state also has how many days that they can be out of the classroom, not receiving instruction. So we look at that specific, how many days they're out, chaperones, there's requirements if it's a day trip, an overnight trip, also specific requirements if they're leaving the city, if they're leaving the state, requirements along with the chaperones and who are they, how many administrators are involved, how many teachers, and then just regular chaperones where there are parents or volunteers that have gone through our VIPS system screening of these volunteers. So very specific as to when, who, what, where.
Okay. I know at one point we had some parents transporting kids to events, and I just wanted to ask that we kind of put our guidelines around.
Absolutely, and there's a lot of concerns when we have parents transporting in private cars or even teachers transporting in private cars, and now we look at insurance and heaven forbid something were to happen. So we will have, because sometimes we'll have a debate team that is 3 students and the chaperone, but we still look for some sort of transportation where the teacher is not the one responsible driving the 2 students or 3 students. So, keeping in mind all those guidelines that we have in place to, protect our students, but also our staff members and the parents.
So I have a question about, so there were 9 respondents to the RFP?
Yes, sir.
So 4 of them didn't make it. Was there just a scoring threshold that you were looking at?
There is a scoring threshold, but also if you look on page 95, there were notes that were given for each vendor to explain why. And in most cases, it was pricing, because they gave discounts, but we weren't sure what the discount was on, so we still couldn't tell how much we would actually spend for the services. So just to explain how some vendors were excluded, that's what the narrative is on page 95. If there are no further questions on that item, the next item is on page 97, and it is a request for proposal for carpet and vinyl and towel replacement. And we had 2 vendors respond to this solicitation, and we're recommending that we award to both vendors. And again, will give us the opportunity to look at the pricing and look at what products they have available and what works best for us at that point in time.
Okay.
This isn't construction, this is repair?
Yes, ma'am. And our next request for proposal begins on page 107, and that's for plumbing services. And we had 5 vendors that responded to this solicitation, and we were recommending 3 of those 5 vendors based on the information that was submitted, the pricing, and the type of services provided. And we did realize that the bid tabulation information wasn't in the binder, so we have that available if you all would like to see it, or I can hand it to you for your reading pleasure later. If you have questions between now and Tuesday night, I have that supporting documentation for you as well.
What was the total number of submissions? 5?
Yes, ma'am. Yes.
I know we've been trying to hire plumbers, for a while, and that's a bit of a challenge.
It's a huge challenge.
Maybe that's something we need to go back and teach as part of our CTE.
Good point.
Because I know
Get in the court. I like that idea.
Yeah, but I know it's been a challenge to hire plumbers because they can actually do much more better.
That's absolutely right. We've had
I
solicitations
think this is what is
out.
driving this.
Correct. We would need plumbing services even if we had our plumbers fully hired and fully staffed because of the volume of work that we have to do and the emergency call-outs and the different complexities that sometimes come up. But we would still like to get our positions filled so we can do a lot of the easier, more routine work in-house.
Next item, if there are no further questions on the plumbing services, is on page 109, and that is a request for proposal for an agency and insurance carriers to provide workers' compensation stop-loss insurance. And what that is it gives us an insurance policy that if we have a claim that exceeds the $400,000 mark, then the insurance policy would kick in and would minimize our losses and the cost that we would have to pay out of pocket. And so we had one vendor that responded as the carrier, and that vendor brought several options for the insurance company. And we are asking to award to that vendor, the sole vendor that responded, but also with the same insurance company that we've used in the past as well. And we have had good experiences with this company, and they've represented the district for the past 10 years. And so with them being the only person who bid, then it made sense, of course, to continue in that direction. Okay. We'll keep going. The next item is on page 114. And this is the beginning of our monthly reports that we see each month. And this is the taxpayer refunds, which is on the list actually begins on page 115. And it's a lengthy list this month. Yes. some litigation that's been hanging on for a little while has finally settled, and not necessarily in our favor. A couple of those cases.
These are property tax refunds?
Yes, sir. And so someone's protested their values, and sometimes the appraisal district will allow it, and sometimes they don't agree, and so it moves further, and the litigation can go on. We've actually had a case that went on for about 10 years. So they can go on for a long time because there's lots of appeals that can happen. So, yes, sir. And unfortunately, our refunds, as our values have gone up, we've seen the refunds go up as well because naturally so more people are protesting their values. And then our next item is on page 117, and that's our agreement renewals, and there are none this month. So we can move through that one pretty quickly. And my last item is on page 119, and that's our cooperative purchases that exceed $50,000. And we have our list that's on page 120. Of course, if you have any questions on that list, then we'll be happy to answer those questions.
Some of these are bond-related.
Yes. The double asterisk are bond-related. And mostly what we continue to see is our technology projects that are ongoing. Actually, with the exception of one, these are all technology-related.
I do want to make one comment about the Yellowstone landscape. That's for 1 month. We had to go month to month because our previous landscape vendor lost their contract with their co-op. So that kind of put us into a bind a few months ago, and we've been going month to month until we could get a new annual contract. So next month you'll see them on there again, and it'll be a slightly higher number, but it'll take us through to the summer, and then we'll be on an annual contract from there.
Who was the last contract? Bio's company.
This is also Bio. Yellowstone is the parent company now for Bio. I think I don't want to mention the name of the vendor in case I get it wrong. It's in my head, but I can have that information back to you.
I'll see the guys in the truck.
Yep, this company was Bio. It's Yellowstone Landscape now.
Yes, ma'am. That's the end of my item.
So I did have a request. Typically, we go from the consent agenda. But I was going to ask if we can pull RFP 18-009, the workers' comp insurance. If I can excuse myself from that one. Okay.
I'm sorry, you want to pull which one?
The workers' compensation stop-loss insurance.
Okay.
So we want to take that one off of the agenda for Tuesday, or the consent agenda for Tuesday night? Okay.
Any gray areas around conflict of interest? I don't want to vote on that.
Okay.
And also, we had the bond as an item that we would discuss on Tuesday. Do you want to discuss that on Tuesday night, or would you prefer to have that on the consent agenda? The refunding? That's one item. Yes, at large for anyone to answer.
I know, I said, are you asking me?
No, not you, Mr. Reed. In general, because sometimes we like to talk about it again because it's a savings opportunity, but I just wanted to double check.
Yeah, because it's good
for the public to hear.
For the public to see we're saving them 2.8?
Yes.
Something, yes.
But they're going to take away from us?
2.8 or 2.3?
Yeah.
Yes. Not the refund. We have the first report coming Tuesday night.
Which one is that?
The first report?
Yes.
The news release came out before the agenda item, but it's good info.
That's okay, with over $2 million, that's okay, put that out. Put that out.
Madam President, I need to see, for the same reason, I might need to ask that an item be removed from the consent agenda for the one for the cooperative purchases, because Choice Partners is a division of the Harris County Department of Education. And I need to find out whether I should be abstaining or recusing myself from those votes.
Purchasing cooperative?
Yes.
Sure. So it looks like you're okay. So, just to confirm, we're going to pull the first item, consideration of possible vote for Board of Directors position of the Harris County Appraisal District, and we will pull the workman's compensation stop-loss insurance from the consent agenda for next week. It's those two. The rest will go on for consent. Thank you, Ms. Westbrooks. For our next item, I would like to again recognize our Chief of School Leadership and Student Support Services, Dr. Hinojosa.
Thank you, Ms. Newhouse and Board. I believe I do have the last item.
Yes, you
So
do.
we'll be done in 2 seconds. I bring to you an MOU, and I am asking that the Board approve this proposed MOU, Memorandum of Understanding, between iEducate and Spring ISD. iEducate is a nonprofit organization that we would like to partner with. They hire highly motivated college students to work alongside our teachers, supporting differentiated instruction in grades 3 through 5. They actually hire students that are going to the university. Currently, they have students from University of Houston, main campus and downtown, Houston Community College. They've actually also just established a partnership with Lone Star, and then, of course, Rice and TSU. And these college students will be working side by side our teachers. While they're going to the university, they're earning money for their college tuition, but they'll be working side by side with our teachers, supporting in the small group instruction. You'll recall earlier we were talking about being able to differentiate instruction and for teachers to be able to work with small groups of students. This program, iEducate, will allow us to do that in our elementary schools. Currently, we're looking at 7 elementary schools that want to participate in this project. You'll see that the MOU right now states not to exceed $215,000. The project, as it looks right now, is a little over $100,000. However, I'm asking for the leeway as different schools are looking at their funding source and may want to partner with these students. Once again, these students focus on working with our teachers. They'll be trained on the strategies that our teachers are using. Specifically, they'll also know how to do MAP skills and be able to support the students in the work that they're doing there. They'll be able, and one of the pieces around iEducate is to be able to engage students, but also to form relationships with students. We know that the close relationship that our students are able to make with significant others, or in this case, our tutors, will help them be more motivated to do well in school. These tutors would remain the entire day. It's not an after-school tutoring program, and you'll see that in the past we've done a lot of after-school. It doesn't necessarily work for all of our students because many cannot stay after school and or have other duties. And so the beauty of this is that we're able to have the tutors during the day working alongside of our teachers.
This is, iEducate we're actually piggybacking off of an RFP that the Houston Independent School District did, and this was one of their approved vendors.
And, Dr. Hinojosa, you
Yes,
mentioned
sir.
that 7 schools that want to participate, regarding that, are we identifying schools, or we're just putting it out there to who wants?
Oh, let me,
What's
so...
the strategy there?
There was a very specific strategy, both on our end and on iEducate. So we did initially have a meeting to inform the schools of this opportunity. It was an open meeting, however, we strategically invited our schools, 2 groups of schools. This group of schools that are schools that have, for lack of a better term, there are Tier 3 schools. They're struggling.
Right.
But we also invited our Tier 1 campuses that needed just that extra push to get over to that 80%, 90%. So these 2 groups of principals were invited to a meeting. Out of our 26 elementary schools, we had a total of 16 principals that came to an hour-and-a-half session. Part of it was to understand that the tutors were going to be in the classroom. So they had to go back and work with their teachers. Not every teacher is comfortable having another adult in the classroom, right? Because now I'm not the only adult here. I've got to make sure that the tutor, and we've been thinking of different words or titles that we can give them, because these are university students. They're not just necessarily going to be doing remediation. They're going to be able to give some instruction. So there's another adult. So we had a couple of schools that fell off because, you know, their teachers didn't feel comfortable in that. Then the second, third piece of it was iEducate visited each campus, met with the leadership team first to explain what the model is and how the model is to work. And then once they met with the leadership team, they then met with the teachers that had been selected. We don't want, and iEducate does not want to, you know, just force tutors or university students into classrooms where teachers don't feel comfortable. So after they did that, we narrowed it down to 9 schools that iEducate felt very comfortable with, that faculty was ready to have this type of partnership. And then from there, 7 schools have officially committed. And by committing, it's also saying we will not, the tutoring, this partnership will be for at least 10 weeks. We had some schools that said, well, I really just need the tutors here 2 weeks before the test. Well, that's not the model. The model is consistency with our students. So the minimum amount of time was 10 weeks. And so that process narrowed it down to who wanted to and where the faculty was open to this type of project.
Thank you. So that was the strategy.
Absolutely.
So, is it possible, and if my other colleagues support the request, to get a list of all of the supplemental vendors and softwares that we're using with regards to curriculum and instruction? I know over the last couple of months, we've approved quite a few vendors, you know, to help in support of development of curriculum and additional resources for intervention, and I'm losing track. I don't know about everybody else. So is it possible to maybe get a listing and where the cost is?
Absolutely.
So that at the end of the year, we can look at the ROI and see if we're getting a good return on our investment with all of the, hopefully eventually we'll be able to have it all in-house. But I'd like a list so that we can kind of keep our arms around it. Does that make sense?
Yes, ma'am.
Yes,
And you said
absolutely.
curriculum
And
and interventions?
So we're not one person, we're a team of 7, so that's a request.
Yes.
Everybody agree? Okay. Then, yeah, can we get that?
So we're looking at curriculum and intervention.
And intervention.
Unless somebody wants to add anything else.
Software.
Software.
I'd be interested in the MAP software that we just saw the presentation tonight, because some of this is for, elementary, or some of them are K-12, you know, I agree that I think I need a map of my own.
I'm losing track.
Absolutely, and we'll definitely label it, you know, what's elementary, what's middle school, what's high school, what's, you know, K-12.
And if we could know what core areas, maybe.
Very good.
And if, I know I keep adding things, but like, special education, ELL, you know, that's...
So by the subject and by the program.
It'll make us better ambassadors as well, because if someone says, why isn't Spring doing anything in literacy? I know we're doing a lot in literacy, and I'd like to be able to go,
Here it is. Absolutely.
That would be good.
Yeah, absolutely.
Thank you.
Is this a separate item?
What she's
Memorandum?
asking for? Yes.
No, the memorandum.
I'd love to be able to put it on the consent. It's up to you.
My only concern is UHC part of it.
Yeah.
Oh.
Conflict.
I understand. And we definitely do have tutors from U of H downtown. We have a lot of tutors. One of the pieces that they were able to do was to survey the students and where they live, and so we're actually able to partner with students that live in our area, but attend universities, you know, in the city.
I've looked at
There it is.
the operation, and I know the person who is the liaison person.
So you put it off, take it off?
Yeah.
Okay. Thank you.
I think that's kind of exciting to get these college students into the classrooms. Maybe we'll hook some of them and
Come back and teach.
That's exactly, they're in their third year of operation, and that's what's happened. Many of these students were in the engineering program, and after working side by side with the teachers, they've started to switch majors, and that's our goal, is to hook them and...
Come back to Spring.
Come back to Spring. Come back to Spring.
I look at this and I think of, well, these are our future student teachers.
Yes.
If
Thank
there's
you.
nothing else, then the Board of Trustees will now recess this open session and convene in a closed meeting in accordance with the Texas Open Meeting Act, Section 551.071, for the purpose of a private consultation with the Board's attorney on all subjects and matters authorized. Texas Open Meeting Act, Section 551.072, for the purpose of discussing the purchase, exchange, lease, or value of real property. Texas Open Meeting Act, Section 551.074, for the purpose of considering the appointment, employment, evaluation, reassignment, duties, discipline, or dismissal of a public officer or employee, or to hear complaints or charges against a public officer or employee. Texas Open Meeting Act, Section 551.076, for the purpose of considering the deployment or specific occasions for implementation of security personnel or devices, or a security audit. No voting will take place in the closed meeting. Any action the board wishes to take as a result of discussions in the closed meeting will take place after the board reconvenes in open session. The time is now 9:20 p.m.
I came to Texas to avoid this now. Okay.
Okay, we will now recess this, we recessed the closed session. We will now reconvene. this work session. The time is 9:46. Can I get a motion to adjourn?
Second. Mr. Adams is gonna come back and say, well...
Who's second?
He went to the...
We both seconded.
It's been moved and second that we now adjourn. Second by Don Davis, that we adjourn this work session at 9:46. Thank you, drive safely.
All right.